Hi, and welcome to the Ambient iPad. Let's try to make some music. I say let's try because this is pretty much literally the 10th take, or maybe I should say the 10th attempt at a live jam today. So, you know, hey, I'm all for perseverance, but sometimes you have to put everything down and just step away for a while, which is what I did. So I've come back, but I am not starting from scratch. So I have an instance of apeMatrix open, pretty much all the instruments and effects, which I have on Matrix 2, and the Rozeta sequencer apps. All that's on here. So I'll walk through a lot of the sounds. I'm using cells for some stuff too, so maybe we'll record that, not make it a total loss, and then we can do a live jam, live mix. So the instrumentation for this one essentially started with Arturia's iSEM, which is an Oberheim emulation. It was on sale a couple of weeks ago, so I picked it up, and nice little app. I've built some patches that we're going to use. But first, let's start with there's a chordal element to this piece that I'm using Synthscaper LE, so the light version of Synthscaper, and also Mellowsound, which is a Mellotron. There's a number of Mellotron apps out there, some that kind of sport the tagline of being, really clean versions of the tapes from the original Mellotron tapes. And why I like Mellowsound is because the Fingerlab folks owned Mellotron and they sampled that one. So you get kind of the idiosyncrasies that you would get from an individual Mellotron. And that's kind of represented in some of the keys here, if we can hear. I mean, you get your standard Mellotron sound, but occasionally you'll hit a key and it's just a weird off note. Not sure if I can represent it here. But anyways, they're not completely clean, and that's why I like it. You do have a bunch of capabilities with this, just the volume, tone, and pitch, but you can deal with the envelope. I'm not changing that for this particular piece. I also am not using the effects within it. And there's a lot of, you got your wind instruments. Essentially, I use a Mellotron in the same way that the bands that I enjoyed in the 70s use it. So really the M400, I believe, was the more portable model. King Crimson used two of those from 71 to, it would have been last shows were 74. So before that, they used kind of the more traditional older standard for the Encore of the Crimson King and the 1969 tours, the original Mellotron. But this is more in line with the M400. So this is actually triggered by cells. I've already set that up, but you know what? Let's erase this. I hope I don't regret this. Let's erase this and kind of set everything to 0 and start again. And you know what? I'm going to do that by removing this and adding a new instance. Right. So we'll start at number 1 here. Let's clear this and make that empty. Okay. So. I mean, the amount of time I hold the note on is irrelevant at this point. And another one of those. Okay. So the matrix is already set up. Let's go out of record and we'll fiddle around with this a bit. So this is triggering both the Mellotron sound and Synthscaper pad. It'll be really fast until we... So that's actually pretty cool, but that's not what I'm going for. So 2 bars. Let's make the gate 100%. It'll pick it back up. I do have the tempo on 90, which also contributes, but as you can see, you can build kind of very evolving pad lines. It doesn't have to be notes that are just speeding up and going off there. You do have that control. I mean, 2 bars is the longest you can make it, then you have to play with the tempo to extend it even more. Now, one could argue just use a DAW like GarageBand or Cubasis and you can have more piano roll linear, or use something like Atom 2, which I just got and I'll use in a future video. But anyways, I like cells and this works for me. So, all right, so that's that bit. Let's stop. And we do have just a kind of basic drum patch here going in Ruismaker. And let's turn off Synthscaper, let's turn off all that, and let's go for, so this is just a rhythm set up in Rozeta Rhythm. We're using Ruismaker. This is, I believe, a patch I set up, I think it's JB2. And essentially why I did that was, okay, we're not hearing anything here, so let's have to actually enable it. Okay. The reason why I'm using this patch is because I have the snare on a very, have the delay send really high for that, so you can hear that. And I'm using the reverb, actually, the reverb that's in Ruismaker. I'm not using the reverb here. We'll go through the effects in a couple of minutes. So, just pretty basic. Let's add the pads back in. And for the pads here, I'm using bus A and bus A and bus B. And while that's playing, let's go over to that matrix number 2. We're not really using, so I'm really only using 2 effects here. Bus A is the Bleass Compressor. It's a really, really good compressor. And I have to admit, I avoided Bleass's apps for a while because it's taken me a bit to get used to the interface, the look and feel of the interface. For whatever reason, I was kind of not into the flat kind of 2D interface, but now I am. And this is just a really, really good compressor. So we got that, and then of course EOS 2, which I like a lot as well. Using the small hall preset, but I've changed a lot of the settings here. Probably should save it as something so I don't lose it, but I'm not going to worry about that now. 40% mix. So this is on the Mellotron, but that's the only thing it's on here. Just, you know, just your basic kind of Mellotron-ish. String sounds smaller, kind of string quartet. All right, so that's that. Now let's turn those, actually we don't need to turn that off yet. Let's go to the first instance of, so I've showed this before too, there's many times where I'll use cells to trigger more than just chordal things. I also use it to initiate ARPs in different patches. So if you can see here, so we're using cells for, of course, the Mellotron and Synthscaper, but also a instance of iSEM. So you can hear what that sounds like. I do want to turn these off so that you can hear how it deals with the ARP here. First, of course, got to keep going into the matrix. Let's turn those off. And now here we go. Okay, so we got this ARP sound going here. Just a nice classic ARP. Cue some effect on that. Get some reverb. There we go. All right, so if we have it being triggered by cells, this is what you get. All right. Okay, let's move on. We've got another instance of essentially the same patch. This is tweaked a little. It's still a patch I made, but it's slightly different than the previous one. And so we have to make sure this is on and the reverb's on. And let's go in the matrix and make sure it's on. And this is what we've got for this one. So it's kind of like a bit, you know, it's going to be a bass. And this is getting triggered by the Rozeta bass line. So let's hear what this sounds like. Bit more reverb on this than usual, but in the mix that works itself out. That's pretty much the sounds. That's all right. Let's just kind of fire everything off in the way that I have it kind of set up in my mind. Reverb on that. We need the compressor and the reverb. So let me just go through these to make sure everything's set the way it is. Let's rewind. And this is actually one of those pieces where all the levels are pretty good. I don't have to do a lot of tweaking here in order to fix levels. Did some tweaking in the patches as we went along the 10 previous times, which has been deleted at this point. All right, so you get the idea. That's the full thing. Why don't we? I'm going to turn everything off, and we'll do a mix and see how this comes out. So this was more of a vintage jam, using Mellowsound for the classic Mellotron sounds. We also used the Synthscaper LE, which I was trying for a Roland Jupiter pad sound from the 70s. And finally, a couple of instances of Arturia's iSEM, which is an Oberheim emulation app. All those were triggered by different instances of the Rozeta sequencer suite, and we also had an instance of Ruismaker doing that minimalistic kind of percussion in the background. That was also triggered by an instance of Rozeta. Using a couple of apps as well, the Bleass Compressor, as well as Damage's EOS 2, which is just a great all-around reverb. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your own music.